Good morning. Welcome to the Best On Ground Weekday Kickoff. It's Friday, the 17th of July, 2020. And if you've ever wondered to yourself, what does Sydney Morning Herald football journalist Vince Rugari do on his day off? I've got the answer for you. He gets up bright and early, scours the newspapers and finds out all the big stories so he can come on here and chat to me about it. Isn't that right, Vince?
It's a sickness. I wish I could be cured of it. It sticks with you. Yes.
Mate,
but it's
fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah, fantastic to have you back on the show. And we're going to start off today. We've got five hot topics to get through, but we're going to start the agenda back in your hometown with the never-ending saga that is the Adelaide Crows Football Club. Another kind of big investigative piece today running both in the Advertiser and in the Herald Sun with Reece Homfrey and Michael Warner combining on that one, looking into, again, the camp, the 2018 Adelaide Crows camp. Some more details emerging after Sam McClure's big exclusive on that topic about 7 or 8 days ago in the Fairfax or the Nine newspapers. But according to this article today, there was some slurs about wife sharing involved in the camp. There was some strange activity where players had to potentially hold their testicle or cup their testicles while they were abused by teammates. There was heavy metal music blared on the bus. It is the weirdest camp of all time, Vince. How can we get some clarity on this camp? Because it's 2.5 years on. We're still hearing little snippets about it. The club's still not really commenting about it. What needs to happen so that we can properly move on from this camp and it can be properly dealt with?
Pretty standard stuff, I thought. Pete, you've never been on a camp like that before? No, it's absolutely ridiculous. And part of me wishes I'd still lived in Adelaide so that I could put my Port Adelaide members hat on and start gloating to 3/4 of the town about how much they've ruined their football club. But you take that hat off and it's really sad. It's a fantastic football club, which pains me to say, that has been absolutely cruel by this camp. And I don't think we're going to find out exactly what happened until everyone involved in terms of the players has retired. We've now had News Corp have a crack at an investigative piece. We've had Fairfax/Nine do it. So both sides of the newspaper equation have tried their best, and we've got not quite a full picture. We've got little details. Short of Four Corners jumping in or someone of that calibre, I don't think we're going to find out any more info, but it's probably not a bad shout, actually. The AFL's tried to investigate and also come up with donuts, and as I think the yarn this morning says, it's probably because the AFL technically owns the Adelaide Crows, so why would they go too deep into an investigation that would be bad news for them? I see this as very similar to the Stephen Dank situation with Essendon a few years ago. Obviously on different levels, in a number of ways. But what you've got is someone who is, or a group of people who are not fully accredited as psychologists, coming in and being given permission by a club to mess about in that sphere without having the full credential. And the outcome is absolutely disastrous. You've got people who are still dealing with this, still trying to recover from, I guess, the effects of the camp, and it's ruined the club. It's quite sad.
Incredibly sad, and as you say, we may never get the full story on that one, but it just continues to emerge little tidbits as we go on. For those watching on YouTube or Facebook, you will have seen the first appearance of the Golden Strainer for the morning. That's the way we move on to the next topic nice and quickly. Vince, our second topic today comes from The Australian, from esteemed cricket writer Peter Lalor. He's looked at the selection criteria used by Australian coach Justin Langer to come up with a squad of 26 names for a potential white ball tour of England, which might happen sometime in September. We're not going to talk too much about the vagueness of that because we understand the situation. But I want to talk a little bit about the methods used to select some of these players according to Justin Langer. Josh Philippe is one, an exciting 23-year-old wicketkeeper batsman. We know he was a superstar for last year's Big Bash winners, the Sixers. And one of the reasons he's been picked in this squad, according to Langer, and I'll quote him, "The interesting thing about Josh is he's obviously a talented young player and a terrific athlete, but in his 54 games he's played above A grade, he has the second highest winning average. What that means is in a short career, he's got a habit of winning games. I find that fascinating. He's a guy that's used to winning." Langer goes on to say that he took this kind of concept from The Last Dance, of course, the Michael Jordan documentary. I asked you the question, Vince. Is selecting a cricket player for a squad based on their team's winning record, is it revolutionary, or is it evidence that the analytics have gone a little bit too far here?
Let me ask you this question, Pete. I thought we were done with referring to The Last Dance in Australian sports journalism. I thought we'd put a blanket ban on that.
I'm the only person in the country who hasn't watched it yet, Vince. So there you go.
I haven't finished the last two, believe it or not. I probably should get around to doing that soon. But it's weird. It's slightly weird. I think that's what we've come to expect from JL. I think as anyone who's seen the other major sports documentary of 2020, The Test on Amazon, would show that he's slightly off the wall, which is a good thing. He's lost me a little bit with this one. I don't mind. I've got no issue with analytics, and you probably should be looking at all the data available to you at any given time if you're in high-performance sport. The dramas come when you give certain things too much weight versus other things, and I think I hope there's other reasons that he's picked Josh Felipe, but to pick him because he's a winner in cricket is a bit just a bit off for me, because I mean, you'd get it if you're talking about a football team or a different style of sport. But cricket is obviously a team sport, but it's a lot of little individual contributions in a way that's quite different from every other sport. So for him to be in a lot of winning teams over the journey, it's great for him. But you'd have to drill down into every single match to figure out to what degree he contributed to that and why that team won, and to therefore give enough weight on that category to bring him into the team. Look, JL knows what he's doing. I'd like to think so, but on this one, it just, I don't think it's analytics gone mad. I think it's just JL probably scratching around in the pandemic, trying to find ways to occupy himself and looking up new stats.
One of the other things that stood out in the yarn is that Glenn Maxwell's been included, and one of the reasons for that is the number of Man of the Match awards he received in domestic cricket, which again, a little bit bizarre because we've seen him on a global stage be a world beater and be a game breaker. You would have thought that might have been enough. But anyway, in JL we trust. Vince, we head to our third story, and it's our big yarn of the day, and it's one of the reasons why we were so keen to get you on today particularly. It's from your colleague Dominic Bossi in the Sydney Morning Herald. It's a great little interview with Kostas Barbarousis, talking about why he won't hold back if he scores against the Wellington Phoenix tonight. Because yes, tonight the A-League returns. A lot of people didn't think it would happen. It's been a long time coming, but the A-League is back. Let's start with Kostas Barbarousis and Sydney FC first. And then Vince, I'm going to give you carte blanche to roll through a few different topics of interest on the A-League over the next couple of minutes. But Sydney FC, title, is it basically sewn up?
Well, one of the two titles that are up for grabs this season will be. Sydney FC only need 4 more points, I think, to sew up the Premier's plate. And tonight they can get 3 from Wellington Phoenix. It's actually going to be a really good game, one of the best games left of the regular season. Wellington are probably the second best team in the comp, even though I think they're third or fourth. They're quite a few games in hand on the teams who are second and third. So their position on the ladder sort of betrays them a little bit, but they're really, really good to watch at their best. So is Sydney FC. So it's going to be a sensational game to watch. I'm really excited about it. Kostas Barbarousis, of course, is a Wellington product. Used to play for Wellington Phoenix. His family still goes for Wellington Phoenix, which is, good for him and them. And, he's going to celebrate if he scores, and he probably will, to be honest. He's always up and about and close to the action for Sydney FC, and gets up for games against his former teams. I think he scored against Melbourne Victory, one of his other former teams, earlier in the season as well. So, yeah, he's definitely one to watch tonight, as is that entire game. And there's a lot of different things that I'm excited about in the A-League that we'll get a taste of tonight.
Well, I want to ask about a couple of those things. I've seen you on soccer Twitter talking about the VAR. I want to know, where is Diego Castro? And I want to know how important it is for the future of the A-League that they get the next couple of months away without any major disruptions.
I'll jump into all of those things, but one of the first thing I'll raise is it's freaking cold, right? It's absolutely freezing in Sydney this morning, according to my half Queenslander read on the weather. And that's a good thing for the A-League, I think. I've been talking to a couple of coaches, a couple of types in A-League land, and they're thinking that because the A-League has never really played in July ever, but we're transitioning into a winter season. And the thinking, as it goes at the moment, is the games are going to be higher tempo, quicker games, more entertaining games. And that's something to really look forward to. I'm excited about that. Whether that's balanced out by, I guess, the demands on having so many games in a month and all those sort of things, whether that impacts the tempo of the games in a negative way, we'll have to see. But I think there's every reason to be excited about the actual football content There's also no VAR, as I reported the other day in the Herald, which is depending on where you sit on technology in football, either a good or a bad thing. I think it means if we can relax for the next month and not have to worry about thinking twice before anyone scores a goal and celebrating it, and that's a good thing. But the A-League and Australian football at large is dictated by Murphy's Law, in my opinion. And so therefore there is no greater guarantee in the history of the world than tonight or at some point in the near future that there will be an absolutely horrendous call that VAR would have picked up that will go through to the keeper. So
probably the 90th minute of the grand final, I'd say.
Well, there's every chance they might bring it back for the grand final, but I mean, the A-League has a history of VAR malfunctions in the grand final. A couple of years ago, in fact, I think it was Costa Barbarouses playing for Melbourne Victory against Newcastle Jets, scored a goal. At that precise moment, VAR did not work. There was a glitch, and it wasn't able to call them offside as he actually was, and that was a crushing blow for the Newcastle Jets. Very unfortunate. As to Diego Castro, he is one of a number of players who have not returned for the rest of the season. They've chosen to either go back to Europe or do something else, for health reasons or family reasons, or they've got a better contract in Europe or something like that. Diego Castro has not done any of those things. Apparently, he's jumped in an RV with his family and driven around rural Western Australia to get away from, I guess, the pandemic, even though I don't think there's any active cases in WA, or if there are, there's maybe one or two. But you do you, Diego. One of the great players in A-League history. Clearly a different cat. Big fan of that. Hope he comes back next season, and I hope he doesn't get himself into any trouble driving around WA in the meantime.
We could chat A-League all day, but we do need to keep moving really quickly. How important is it that this gets off without a hitch?
Oh, yeah, it's massive. I think they've only got until the end of August to actually wrap the thing up because they extended player contracts and coach contracts, which are supposed to end, I think, either at the end of May or June. So we don't have much of a runway. The NRL and AFL have both said, we can finish our seasons in December if we have to. They've given themselves that much time. The A-League's already had to push back the final series by a week from what they'd originally planned. So the grand final is, I think, August 30. So we're smack bang against the boundary of what we can actually get done here. So I really, really hope for the A-League's sake and for the sake of the players, the fans, the coaches, everyone, that we can actually get these games away.
Staying with football, heading over to the UK, my beloved Leeds United, one of the giants of the English game. Surely they can't stuff it up from here. They need only 1 point from their final 2 matches in the Championship to secure Premier League status next season. How big would it be for the English Premier League to have Leeds United back in there after a 17-year absence?
It'd be massive. It should probably I feel like handing this one over to you, Pete, as a Leeds United fan. But everyone knows they're a sleeping giant of not just English football but world football. I remember when I was a kid growing up, it was Leeds. It was Leeds and I think Manchester United were the 2 big teams. And Leeds, of course, were massive here in Australia because of the number of Aussie players, Socceroos, who are on the Leeds United books. And there's remnants of that fandom still around. There's people who have stuck with Leeds their whole life in Australia because of those early days, and they've been in all sorts of pain for the last 20 years or so, with the club battling financial difficulties and being outside of the Premier League for so long, and now they're so close. One point needed from the last 2 games, and look, if any team could stuff it up, it's probably Leeds, that's for sure. But I've got a lot of confidence in Marcelo Bielsa, the coach, who is, we want to talk about oddballs. He is the oddest ball in the history of world football, without a doubt. And it's going to be really, really fun to see him in charge of a Premier League team, sitting on his ice bucket on the sidelines, yelling at opposition coaches in the top tier. It's going to be fantastic. I hope to hell that they get it done, Leeds United.
Sunday night, their next match against Derby County. And if I'm a little bit slow Monday morning, you know that they've got it done. Our final story today comes from your erstwhile colleague, Andrew Webster, in the Sydney Morning Herald. He's finally done a little bit of a deeper dive into these snippets we've been hearing over the last few weeks, linking England rugby coach and former Wallabies coach Eddie Jones to NRL coaching jobs, first at the Cronulla Sharks, then at the Bulldogs. It's really seemed a little bit out of left field for mine. Webster essentially shutting it down, though going into detail about the fact that Eddie loves his rugby league and that it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Eddie might come back when his England rugby contract expires in 3 years' time and maybe do a director of footy job in the NRL or something like that. Do you think we can put it to bed until then now, Vince?
Probably, yeah. I think Webby's done a good job with this one here. It certainly seems like contract games at play, you might just say Eddie Jones games at play here. Yet another different cat. We've had a series of those already thrown up for discussion tonight. But Eddie really is one out of the box, and he's on a good thing with England at the moment. And if you've got a contract and you've got a World Cup coming up, then you'd probably want to see it through. He certainly does. But where there's smoke, there's generally fire. Webby's done a good job of illustrating where that fire has come from and how much credence we should give it. And clearly, Eddie loves his rugby league. I think we might see it. How old is he? It'd be late 60s or maybe?
You put me on the spot there. Yeah, he wouldn't be 70, that's for sure. He'd be younger than Wayne Bennett.
Yeah. So he's got time on his hands. So there's no doubt he'll probably be looking to return to Australia as well at the end of this contract. And assuming the world is still intact by that stage, which is no guarantee given the way things have been going in the greater universe in recent times, I could definitely see him dipping his toe into the NRL waters. A little bit similar to what Czech's done with the Roosters, maybe a hands-off role, maybe a hands-on role, who knows? All I know is we probably are going to have to wait until 2023 at the least to find out if there's any real nuggets of truth in that.
From strange coaches, Justin Langer, Eddie Jones, Marcelo Bielsa, the coach which took the Adelaide players to the camp. That's where we're going to finish up for the day. Vince, I want to thank you so much for giving up your time. Also to Jules de Stoop, Nat Ioannidis, Sammy Phillips and Jim Tucker, who have also jumped on the Best On Ground Weekday Kickoff this week. Of course, you can get the show via the podcast app on YouTube and Facebook. Vince, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the A-League return, and we'll chat very soon.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.